Have you ever heard a person say that they did not believe in the theory of evolution because it was a theory, or that it hasn't been proven? Maybe you know someone that thinks that the theory of evolution describes how life was created. Maybe you are this person. I did not always believe in the theory of evolution, and for the same reasons, to name some. But there was so much more that I didn't understand, so much that I doubted. I didn't believe in the theory until many of my misconceptions were revealed. I am here to tell you that if you've ever believed that the theory of evolution is just a theory, or that it has never been observed, that man evolved from monkeys, or that monkeys will ever evolve into man, you are wrong. Most importantly, however, wrong about evolution being just a theory. Firstly, evolution is a fact. Evolution means change over time. We do know that living creatures possess the ability to change over time, most apparently being the smaller changes that we see over time, known as microevolutions, which we will discuss in greater detail later. Secondly, it is important that we will understand the difference between a scientific theory and a hypothesis. In the scientific method, a hypothesis is the educated guess that we intuitively believe to be the case or the outcome of an experiment. But as we explained at notjustatheory.com, a theory is a well-substantiated, well-supported, well-documented explanation of our observations. The theory is the highest, most proud accomplishment in all of science and accounts for the greatest understanding of the subject. A theory does not become a law once it is proven, which is a common misconception. Theories and laws are two completely separate ideas that are not contingent upon one another. For example, there is a law of gravity which describes gravity. What goes up must come down. But then you have a theory of gravity which explains why what goes up must come down. The theory is an explanatory tool. It is what science does. It explains. It is not a hypothesis or educated guess. It is the educated, well-supported explanation of a phenomenon. No one would ever argue that there is no gravity, or that gravity hasn't been proven because there is a theory of gravity, and there is. Now that we recognize that evolution isn't just a theory, we can address other direct misconceptions about the theory, like the claim that evolution has never been observed or demonstrated. Evolution, or the change over time in living things, has been recorded, but in order to understand what constitutes as an actual change in the species, one would have to understand simple mechanics about evolution. When a species evolves, the changes begin in the offspring of that species. Even though individuals do change over time, for example, like from fetus to adult or from young to old, these things are not what accounts for the genetic evolution of a species. The evolution of a species would be by genetic modification called mutation. These mutations of genes often occur during conception. Because most mutations occur during conception, the evolution of a species is dependent on that species' ability to reproduce. The faster a species reproduces, the greater the likelihood you will be able to observe which mutations are so favorable that that species survives and continue to pass those genes on to offspring. Bacteria reproduce rapidly, which allows us to see their evolution in real time. Dr. Trudy Wassenaar, a biologist at bacteriamuseum.org, wrote in an article that the truth is the emergence of antibiotic-resistant bacteria is evolution as we speak. She also discusses that sharing of DNA along with genetic mutation in offspring are the two mechanisms of evolution in bacteria. If a bacterium develops antibiotic resistance through mutation, its offspring are more likely to survive than they were before, at least against a particular kind of antibiotic. This is the reason why so many vaccines are changed on an annual basis, because the bacteria evolve so rapidly. These small changes would be considered microevolution because they are not visually apparent changes in the species. Macroevolution also occurs, which will be changes that are so significant that the rise of a new species is obvious. Most of the time, a macroevolution is just a myriad of microevolutions combined over time. This kind of evolution is obvious, and it takes many generations for enough mutations to take place to classify a species in a different category than the one it started with. This kind of evolution is harder to see in animals that don't reproduce rapidly. Human beings reproduce relatively slowly compared to other living things, which is why it appears that we evolve so much slower than others. So some people believe that this is evidence that we didn't evolve at all, or that we aren't evolving anymore. Humans have evolved over time, but there is an old misconception about our evolution as well. There are many people that believe that theory states that man evolved from monkeys. People who believe that the theory of evolution states that man evolved from monkeys, they're clearly just misinterpreting the theory. The theory does not state that humans evolved from monkeys, but it does suggest that humans and other apes on the planet, like gorillas and chimps, share a close common ancestor. All living things have a common ancestor according to the theory, but modern monkeys and other apes are the closest living relatives to humans. If the theory of evolution is saying anything, it is saying not that we came from apes, but that we are apes. Like every other living creature, we belong to classification groups. We are certainly different from other apes like gorillas and chimps, but like them, we are apes. The chimpanzee is a different from a gorilla, as a human is different from either of them. We are very similar to our ape cousins, but there are differences. To use an analogy, the rose is a flower, a specific kind of flower. Tulips, lilies, and freesias are all flowers also. These flowering plants are all called angiosperms, but they are so different from each other that they belong to a different phylum, a different class, a different order, a different genus, and a different species. They are all still considered flowers, however. Humans share the same kingdom, phylum, class, order, and genus with most other apes. Humans are closer to their ape cousins than most flowers are related to each other. Humans are the upright walking, more intelligent, hairless kind of ape, but still an ape. If there is a single factor that many people believe separates humans from other apes and animals, it is without a doubt human intelligence. Which brings us to the last misconception we will address. I've heard people ask, why aren't other animals as advanced as humans? When will they catch up with us? This would be a loaded question. It would be entirely dependent on what the person who was asking the question, it would be dependent on what their perspective of advanced was. Most living things excel in their own way. Using technology as a height of advancement would be a biased selection. We as humans favor technology, so it is only fitting that we hold every other living creature to this standard. But speaking objectively, we don't run as fast as cheetahs or smell as well as dogs, we don't swim as well as dolphins, and we aren't as strong as gorillas. There are creatures who have far greater survival skills and advantages that we don't have. It may be true that we will never gain some of those advantages and that these creatures may never gain some of ours, but that does not make one species objectively more advanced than any other. And one speech would be difficult to outline all of the misconceptions about evolution, but at least we have discussed and corrected 4 of them. We now understand what theory is. We understand that evolution means genetic change over time, and that it has been demonstrated, especially when we observe bacteria. We also learned that humans did not evolve from monkeys, but we do share common ancestry. And lastly, we learned that the different animals have different advantages, and that no animal is objectively more advanced than any other. If it is fit to survive today, then it is equally evolved and is capable of living, among other things. Hopefully, clarifying these concepts will help you come to understand the theory the same way that it helped me understand. Life possesses the ability to change from generation to generation, and this is a fact, not just a theory.